stop what you are doing and listen, not with your ears, but with your soul. For if you miss what I'm about to reveal, you may continue walking through life thinking God has abandoned you, when in truth, He has been watching, testing, and refining you in silence, not to punish you, but to prepare you. You see, the silence you fear is not the absence of God. It is the presence of His greatest test, the test of your faith, when nothing makes sense, the test of your strength, when your prayers echo back unanswered, the test of your vision, when all you see is darkness. Most people fold in this silence. They assume they're forgotten. They stop asking, stop believing, stop moving, but I'm here to awaken you, to pull back the curtain on a deeper truth. When heaven is quiet, that's when your spirit is being measured. This is not inspiration. This is spiritual instruction. This is the voice you were meant to hear when everything around you went still, when people left, when the doors closed, when the path disappeared. God is not ignoring you. He is refining you. He is not absent. He is observing, watching if you will grow roots in the drought, or if you will beg for rain and abandon the soil of your purpose. Heaven's silence is not divine rejection. It is a summons to evolve, because the next level you're asking for, the power, the purpose, the elevation, it requires a version of you that isn't addicted to noise, to comfort, or to constant validation. You've been calling on God to bless you, but God is calling on you to believe before the blessing comes. Let me make it plain. Your delay is not denial. Your struggle is not punishment. Your confusion is not failure. It is all part of the test of silence, the test of whether you will trust what He told you in the light, even when you're walking through the valley of shadow. And most people fail this test. They quit when it's quiet. They curse the sky. They bow to the voice of fear. They build altars to doubt. But you were not built to fold. You were not called to break. You were summoned to rise, and the silence is only the beginning of your resurrection. Listen to me. The greatest transformations do not happen when God speaks loudly. They happen when He doesn't speak at all, because silence forces you to choose, will I become who I'm meant to be, even when I feel forgotten? God already knows your potential. But do you hear the silence is meant to draw it out of you, to see if you'll reach for Him in the dark, to see if you'll walk by faith and not by sight. You've been begging for clarity, but God is building character. You've been asking for signs, but heaven is asking for stamina. This is your invitation to evolve, not after the breakthrough, but right now, in the silence, before anything changes, because if you can praise in silence, if you can work in silence, if you can believe in silence, then you are no longer ruled by circumstance. You are ruled by conviction. That's the man God can trust. That's the woman heaven can raise up. That's the vessel worthy of divine power. So let the silence refine you. Let it mold your decision. Let it carve out the smallness in you that still doubts, still hesitates, still waits for proof before you move. The silence is your signal not to pause, but to prepare. Because what's coming next is too great to be placed in unsteady hands, too heavy for a weak spine, too sacred for a fearful heart. You must evolve in this silence. You must become who the future needs, who the dream requires, who the calling demands. There is no applause in the wilderness, no validation in the training ground, but the man who survives the silence becomes unstoppable in the storm. The woman who doesn't fold in the stillness becomes immortal in purpose. And so I say to you, do not curse the silence. Bless it. It means God sees something in you that can only be awakened without distractions. He is not delaying your purpose. He is deepening it. He is not holding back the promise. He is building the person. You are not being punished. You are being prepared to carry weight others can't even imagine. You are not being ignored. You are being inspected for the next level. So now, will you fold or will you evolve? Will you complain or will you conquer? Will you let the silence destroy your spirit or will you let it forge your soul? That decision is the difference between wandering for the rest of your life and walking into the destiny God designed for you. This is not just a video. This is your moment. The silence is not the end. It's the beginning of everything. Then listen even deeper, because the silence still isn't over, and neither is the test. You see, the enemy doesn't attack loud victories. He attacks you in the still moments, when no one's watching, when the room is dark, when the phone is silent, when the bank account is low, when your dreams feel distant, and your prayers feel like they're falling on deaf ears. But this is where champions are born. Not in light, not in noise, not in applause, but in this sacred silence where your will is weighed. The world won't understand what you're going through. They'll say you're wasting time. They'll say you're crazy for holding the line. But they weren't called like you were. They weren't chosen like you were. God doesn't send silence to destroy you. He sends silence to divide the imposters from the chosen, to separate the ones who talk from the ones who build. When it's quiet, will you still wake up and grind? Will you still speak life over your future? Will you still walk with purpose when every door says no? Because that is what marks the man heaven trusts. Not his shout, but his stamina. Not his feeling, but his faithfulness. Do you think Joseph became king overnight? No. He was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, forgotten in a prison. But God wasn't absent. God was watching, silently sculpting him through every injustice, testing if he would curse the silence or rise through it. And what did Joseph do? He evolved. In silence, he grew in obscurity while others mocked. He rose in chains while others celebrated, until the moment came, and heaven opened the floodgates and said, now he's ready. That moment is coming for you, but not if you fold. Not if you retreat into the shadows of self-doubt. Not if you abandon the promise just because the voice of God went quiet. Because hear me clearly, when God goes silent, the enemy speaks loud. And if you don't control your inner voice, you will start mistaking fear for facts. You will begin to believe lies as if they were truth. So what must you do? You discipline your spirit. You become the voice of faith when heaven is silent. You stand in the fire and say, I don't care what I feel. I know what I was promised. You walk like the outcome is already done. You train like the throne is already yours. You prepare like the stage is already being built behind the curtain, because it is. But only for those who refuse to fold. Let me ask you now, how many times have you backed down because you misread the silence? How many times did you abandon the process 5 minutes before the breakthrough? How many versions of you have died in the wilderness because you stopped believing God was guiding the way? That ends now. This version of you, the one who fears the quiet, must be buried today, because silence isn't the enemy. Silence is the furnace. And if you can stay in the heat, you'll emerge forged in faith, unstoppable in vision, and magnetic in purpose. That's the man God blesses. That's the woman who walks with destiny. So now, I ask you again, in the silence, will you fold or will you evolve? Because everything depends on your answer. The silence was never the punishment. It was the proving ground. And now it's your turn to speak, not to me, not to the world, but to yourself and to heaven. I will not fold. I will evolve, even in silence. Especially in silence. Say it, believe it, and then act like it. Because the silence is over for those who are finally ready to listen. Good, because what I'm about to say next is not for the weak, it's for the awakened. You think silence is painful? Try ignoring your calling for 10 more years. Try pretending you're not meant for greatness just to make others comfortable. Try explaining your mediocrity to your future self when you had all the tools to become immortal. That's real pain. And that's exactly what the silence came to save you from. You were not born to want, you were born to command. But you can't command the world until you first master the war within. And make no mistake, it is a war. Every silent night you've endured, every unanswered prayer you've whispered, every invisible battle you've fought behind smiles, all of it was heaven's test. Will you surrender to fear, or will you submit to the process? Because submission to the process is not weakness. It's the greatest sign of strength, the kind of strength the universe obeys, the kind of strength that heaven rewards, the kind of strength that makes devils tremble and angels rise in support. So hear me now. When God is silent, He's not abandoning you. He's waiting on you, waiting to see if you'll move without applause, waiting to see if you'll lead without followers, waiting to see if you'll act like the promise is already yours. Not because you saw it, but because you believed it. That's real faith. And most will never know it. They'll chase certainty. They'll bow to facts. They'll wait for external proof before they move. But not you. Because if you're still here, still listening, that means your soul has recognized the truth beneath these words. You are being chosen, but only if you choose back. Don't forget, Heaven does not shout. It whispers. It waits. And when you finally align with the assignment, not out of fear, but out of fire, the doors you've been banging on will open by themselves. The answers you've been begging for will appear effortlessly, because heaven doesn't reward noise. It rewards alignment, and you only find that in silence. So sit with it. Let the silence break your illusions. Let it kill your need for constant comfort. Let it burn away the weak version of you that's still waiting for permission. Because when all that's left is truth, when all the noise is gone, when all the shallow affirmations and fake motivation wear off, what then is the real you, the version forged in solitude, built in fire, approved by God. You don't need another sign. This is your sign. This moment, this silence, is the final test before the elevation. So I ask you one last time, and this time I want you to answer with your whole life. Will you fold or will you evolve? Because once you decide, heaven will too. Then listen closely, because we are not done, and neither are you. The silence you feel isn't empty. It's pregnant with your future, but the future doesn't come for the comfortable. It comes for the courageous, the ones who don't need noise to walk with power, the ones who don't need proof to move like it's already done. You want to know why the silence hurts so bad? Because deep down, you know what you're being called to become. You've seen glimpses of it in your dreams. You felt it in quiet moments, right before fear pulled you back, right before doubt stole your fire. But God didn't bring you this far to leave you half-built. He didn't anoint you just to let you crumble under pressure. No, He brought silence to strip away everything that doesn't belong to your next level. That's why people walked away. That's why things started falling apart. That's why you're alone. Because what's coming can't be built on what you used to be. It must be built on who you're becoming through this silence. So let me ask you, have you been listening to your fears more than your calling? Have you been praying for an escape instead of embracing your evolution? Because here's the truth. God hides kings in caves before He places crowns on their heads. He hides warriors in wilderness before they command armies. He hides legends in silence before the world is ready to hear them speak. The silence is sacred. It's not punishment. It's preparation for the platform you don't even see yet. You think the silence is God's, but sometimes silence is God's not yet, because you're not done cooking. And a half-baked destiny is a dangerous one. So don't rush out of this season. Don't chase the noise, chase the becoming. Chase the version of you that survives this process, because that's the version of you the world needs. The truth is, the silence is not your enemy. It's the threshold. And if you can cross it, if you can stay steady when the world forgets your name, if you can hold the vision when nothing is moving, if you can choose purpose without applause, then you are no longer a servant of circumstance. You are a leader of destiny, and that's who you were born to be. Not a beggar of validation, not a slave to your feelings, but a commander of spiritual authority. The ones who endure the silence are not just survivors, they become architects. They become prophets. They become living proof of what it looks like to walk with God in faith and not just in sight. So if it's quiet right now, good. That means you're close. That means heaven is still watching, still waiting, still sharpening you in the shadows. Because what's coming isn't small. It's not average. It's not for the faint-hearted. What's coming requires the most evolved, most disciplined, most refined version of you. The one that only silence can produce. So don't run from it. Lean into it. Sit with the silence until it reveals the version of you that the world hasn't met yet. But God has already approved. And when you emerge, don't look for applause. Don't wait for permission. Just walk with fire in your eyes and thunder in your steps. Because now you've passed the test. You didn't fold. You evolved. And now, good. Because your spirit isn't done listening, and neither is heaven done speaking through this silence. Let me give you a truth most people will never hear in their entire lives. If you can survive the silence, you will never be the same again. Because silence is not just a test of patience, it's a test of identity. In the silence, everything false starts to fall away. The applause fades, the distractions vanish, the fake confidence is exposed, and what's left is you. the raw, unguarded, stripped-down version of you. And in that moment, you face a decision that will define everything. Do I rise with who I truly am, or return to who the world trained me to be? This is why most people run from silence. It confronts them with themselves. It doesn't flatter them. It forces them to admit what still lives inside: fear, doubt, bitterness, excuses. But the chosen, they stay in the silence until those things die. They let the silence refine them until their faith is no longer fragile. It's forged. They don't need external proof. Their belief becomes their proof. And that's when the shift happens. That's when heaven opens the gates. Not because the time finally arrived, but because you finally did. Do you hear me? It wasn't about the calendar. It was about your character. You weren't waiting on the breakthrough was waiting on you. So what now? Now you walk. Now you rise. Now you speak to the mountain like it has no choice but to move. Now you command your future like it's already done. Because after you pass the silence, you don't ask for power, you walk in it. You don't request clarity, you become it. You don't need to be seen. You carry a presence so strong, the world notices before you speak. This is the reward of evolving through silence. You become undeniable because heaven built you in a realm no man could touch, no opinion could stop, no fear could reach. You were built in the shadows, built in pain, built in fire, built in obedience, built without validation. And that is why nothing can shake you now. So let this be your new truth. I am the one the silence shaped. I am the one who did not fold. I am the one who evolved when everything told me to give up. You didn't just survive, you were reborn, you were remade by the hand of God. Not in front of the world, but in front of heaven itself. So from this day forward, carry yourself like someone who passed the test. Walk like the silence trained you. Move like destiny is watching, because it is. And speak only when your words carry the weight of someone who knows who they are, because that's what the silence was trying to teach you all along. Not who you were, but who you always had the power to become. And now that you've heard this message, now that your spirit is awake, you'll never fold again. You'll only evolve again and again until you become unstoppable. Welcome to your next level. Nothing can stop you. Comment below, I will not fold, I will evolve. Let the silence strengthen you. If this message hit your spirit, write it, believe it, and walk in it. Your next level is already watching.